How are you all doing today?
Good.
Good. Today I wanted to ask our listeners how they are doing before we jump into the podcast. So how are you, Nivi?
Great.
Okay, so welcome back to the Generation Gap.
Yeah.
This is the only lighthearted podcast starring two giggly girls gathering people from different generations to discuss some not so lighthearted topics. Guys, today I'm really excited for this topic. It's a very interesting topic.
Yes.
And we're having a lighthearted topic after a really long time, no?
Yeah.
Actually. Okay, so guys, today's hello was in Shona, by the way. This is a language I didn't know that it existed. But anyways. Okay, so getting to today's episode. Today's topic, for some reason, it feels like it's kind of targeted towards us.
Because we're weird.
Yeah, because we're weird. And because kids are weird. But kids are weird, right?
They are.
I think they are.
I think that's what makes them kids.
Yeah, exactly. But in reality, the reason today's episode is entitled Kids Are Weird is because we have our guests from the Kids Are Weird podcast. So please welcome mothers and hosts of the Kids Are Weird podcast, Miss Ashley and Miss Becca from Gen Y. Woohoo!
Hello,
Hello.
friends.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having us today.
Yes,
Thank you
we're
so
very
much for
excited to be
coming.
here with you.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Okay, guys, today's episode is going to be so very heated and controversial.
Spicy.
Spicy. But I think we'll get in all the spice from segment 2 onwards. For now, let's start a little light. Okay, so for segment 1, we want to talk about something that we have just grown up listening to our moms ranting about, how they constantly say that their life has revolutionized ever since they became mothers. And oh, how they can't do this, how their social life was just butchered. So we want to start by asking you guys the truth. What is the reality? Does your life so very drastically change once you become a mother?
Yes. I would say every aspect of your life changes. Every aspect of your life is different. The life that you once had, it is gone. You must say goodbye to it. And you are different. The relationship with your significant other is different. It really can't be understated how much your life is turned upside down when you have a kid. You know, the days of being spontaneous and getting up and just doing whatever you wanted, you know, those are over. Your life is much more planned. There's much more to it. It's a lot harder to get out the door. So yes, it really can't be understated how much your life changes after you have a kid.
Yeah, I think that both my husband and myself have both changed as people, mostly just because we've realized what is important to us and what isn't important. And like we've made changes in our lifestyle because of that. Like we used to go out sometimes multiple times a night or multiple times a week.
Multiple
Yeah, I
times a
mean,
night.
sometimes it would get crazy. But, you know, you used to, like things that you used to do just become a little bit more difficult to do on a regular basis. There's just more planning involved. I mean, there's still, like, we've still been able to travel having a kid. We've still been able to go to some really cool places, but
So that's good.
it just takes a little bit more planning. Like there's a lot of things that you kind of have to plan for things to go crazy or for your kid to be in a bad mood or for just to make sure that all bases are covered kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because kids can be moody, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but is it like, do you miss your life before having a child? Because, like, I don't know, it seems like, you know, your social life would kind of just suffer. Because you're gonna spend like so much
Yeah.
time with your kid.
I would definitely say that, I mean, there are aspects of my life that I miss. Like you said, the social aspects definitely changed. Like there are friends from my life that I haven't really seen since having my daughter. And, that I think that happens in a lot of different instances though. Like when your life changes, people come and go. But yeah, it's just something that like I don't think I realized that aspect of it going into parenthood as much as I feel like I should have. Just the fact that like friends who you've had for a long time might not be around as much anymore. And just to like recognize that relationships do change. All types of relationships do. So
Yeah, I think it's really normal to miss your old life. It's I do, I miss like the freedom that you used to have. Definitely miss like, it just being myself and my spouse sometimes. But on the same hand, like when we are without her, when she's like, she's having a sleepover or whatever, like we really miss her. And it really is like, I am honestly asking myself, like, who was I before this child was here? Like, I don't even remember who she was. Like, they say like when your child is born, like a mother is also born, and it is almost like you are becoming a butterfly. Like it is kind of like this rebirth. Like that's kind of how I think about it, because my kid has made me the best version of myself that I've ever been. But of course, like, yes, I do miss my old life. I have also lost friends. It is hard to maintain relationships when you become a parent, especially with friends who do not have children, because they just don't quite understand what it's like. Mom friends are very important, but we both still have a handful of friends who don't have kids, and I can't really tell you the last time I saw any of them, to be honest. It's a hard bridge to gap.
Yeah.
I think, like, yeah, your life probably does change a lot. I mean, I can't say because I'm not experienced, but like, I think just because now I'm a teenager, I feel like my mom can do a lot more things that she probably couldn't do when I was like probably your kids' age. So hopefully, when they grow up,
Absolutely.
you'll get a little more of relaxation
Freedom.
time, me time.
Yeah, no, I think each season of like childhood and like between being an infant and a toddler and like a younger child and even like aging up to be like an older kid, each season of that comes with different needs and different like parenting that you need to do or that is required, what level of hands-on you are. So I think that as our kids get older, I don't know if it'll necessarily become easier, but it'll definitely change. It already has. Like there was, I don't know, there were times when your kid is an infant, when like you set them down, they stay there.
I miss those days.
Now they just get up and run away from you, because my daughter is 4.5, and things change.
Yeah, the work is different. I feel like there's work no matter what age. It just changes. So I'm like dreading when my child is a teenager, because she's gonna like have her own life, and I'm so afraid of her going out into the world. So I'm gonna hold off on that as long as humanly possible. I'll have more freedom, sure, but like I'll also have way more anxiety about like what she's doing.
Way more stress because you're not there.
My great grandma has she had a quote, and my mom has always said it my whole life, and I really think it's true. It's like, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. And I'm just like, my child, like the problems I deal with now at 2, I'm thankful for them, and I will take the toddler problems as long as possible, because I don't want to deal with those teenage problems. I know what I was into as I was a teenager, so I'm really not looking forward to that.
I think this is something that I should go back and ask my mom now. Like, do you think my life was easier for you when I was a baby?
Yeah, we should ask them.
That's something to do after this.
Be like, yeah, can you just go back to that for a second?
Yeah.
Give us all a break.
Okay, guys, so now we're gonna get to the spicy bit
Yes.
of this episode. So for this segment, what we planned is kind of like a Q&A session-ish thing. So Nivi and I kind of researched and we found a list of taboos related to pregnancy, motherhood, parenting, and all of that kind of stuff. So we're gonna talk about some of that stuff and let's see what you guys have to think about it. Since we
Love
obviously
it.
can't give our input on it, we have no experience.
Yes.
Okay, Nivi, do you wanna go for the first one?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the first one is breastfeeding versus bottle feeding. Like, I know that a lot of people prefer breastfeeding and some people are just totally against it.
And some people are also very scared of it.
Yeah.
Because breastfeeding seems terrifying, not gonna lie. And other people are kind of like, no, everyone should breastfeed because your baby won't grow or you won't be close to your baby if you don't breastfeed them. So, what do you guys think? How did you deal with that whole thing?
So for myself, I personally had I had a struggle with my breastfeeding journey. I so wanted to be the mom who breastfed all the time, and that was what I truly wanted to do. But then when my daughter was born, I ended up having a lot of issues with breastfeeding, and like I went and saw lactation consultants and like tried to get help from my doctor. And it just wasn't a good time for us. It was painful for myself. I didn't have a good latch. My daughter was literally she wasn't getting what she needed. So for me, the decision to switch to formula literally saved my daughter. And, at first I felt like a little bit of shame of that because like in my head, it was, I felt like my body was supposed to do this so naturally and just it was supposed to happen a certain way. And when I had that struggle, I kind of felt like some just unnecessary personal shame of being unable to deal with or to do what I felt like was supposed to be this natural thing. So I think that, there is a reason that formula exists. And I'm personally very grateful for it because it allowed for my daughter to thrive and grow into the awesome little human that she is.
Yeah.
So,
and I also had a really difficult feeding journey. And I think what needs to be normalized is there's so many different ways that you can feed your baby and they are all valid. So what ended up working for me is exclusively pumping. Which is just as big of a commitment as breastfeeding. You're still up all hours of the night. You're on a schedule. You've got to be pumping. I would pump while I was driving my car, like hooked up, driving the car, pumping away. And I dealt with a lot of shame. I would cry and cry and cry. Breastfeeding was extremely painful for me. Like I was like screaming when I was trying to nurse her. And I had this moment with my mother-in-law where she just looked at me and she's like, just pump for her. It's okay. Because so many things out there, like as much as like fed is best is becoming more normalized, when you start to research it and you get in, there's all these articles that just make you feel so afraid that giving them a bottle is wrong. I felt a lot of guilt and shame when I gave her a pacifier in the hospital, and I blame myself for that being the reason why breastfeeding wasn't working. When really, you are made to feel like it is the most natural thing in the world, but for some women it's not. And breast is not best if it costs you your mental health. So you have to do what is best for you, best for your baby. And as long as your baby is thriving, growing, you are doing the right thing.
Mhm.
And just don't carry, any advice is just like, don't carry that shame, your baby will still bond with you. There are so many other ways for you to bond with your kid.
Yeah.
They will not be dumb. They will not grow. They will be just fine. I was formula fed. Were you formula fed?
I truly have no idea, but there you go. Like once
Same, I don't know.
Same.
I mean, I'm okay. I'm a little off, but it's fine.
like once you grow up, it's not like you're going to be able to tell like, oh, that kid was definitely bottle fed. That kid was clearly breastfed.
Yes.
That's never going to happen. They're all still going to be running crazy on the playground. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's not on the resume. Your employer will not care. If you were breastfed or bottle fed, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, just do what you're comfortable feeling. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Okay, the next taboo that we found, and I think quite a common one, is having a boy or having a girl. And this is something that so in Indian households, especially, I'd say sometime back, it used to be a big issue where, the girls were kind of like, oh, okay, a girl is born, but a boy is born, oh, celebration. So that used to be a big thing. But, I feel like, I don't know, I'm asking you guys, do like parents just have that small thing that, oh, I wish I have a boy, or I wish I have a girl, and then if you give birth and it turns out to be a different gender, like, I don't know, do you have that like slight longing to have the particular gender?
So I was convinced I was having a boy. Everything that you read, I read all the signs for like all those old wives' tales that are telling you have a boy. I was not sick. I had an incredibly easy pregnancy. So I was like convinced that I was having a boy. So I wouldn't say I was disappointed when I found out the gender, but I was certainly taken aback because I had it in my head that I was having a boy. And we did a gender reveal like with donuts, and we bit into the donut, and I was like ready for that blue icing to be in the middle, and it was pink. And I was like, what? My husband really wanted a girl. I did want a boy simply because I wanted a boy first so that he could be like the protective older brother, because I didn't have an older brother. I have an older sister. Yeah, so
I have an older brother. I don't think it's very protective, but maybe it
you're
is,
like
I don't know.
0 out of 10 would not recommend having an older brother.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So, but I never am like, dang, I wish I'm always like, how did I ever wish I want, how did I ever think I wanted a boy now that I have her, But gender disappointment is a real thing.
Yeah.
People do experience that for sure.
Yeah, for myself, I don't know, I pictured myself having a boy, but like literally when the ultrasound technician was like, oh yeah, it looks like you're having a girl, I was like, are you sure? I'm pretty sure that I'm having a boy. Like, and she's like, no, honey, I've been doing this for a while. Like, I know. I'm like, all right, well, in my head, I was right, but clearly I'm wrong. So,
in our house, like, there's this whole, like, saying that if the mother, like, while she's pregnant, if she's all, like, beautiful and her skin is glowing, that means she's gonna have a boy. And if you're gonna have a girl, that means you're gonna be all, like, exhausted, looking all, like, drowny. And my mom, when she was pregnant with me, she was, like, so beautiful, and everyone's like, you're gonna have a boy, you're gonna have a boy. And the moment I was, like, out there, like, oh, it's a girl.
Yeah, it was the same with me. That's why, like, literally, I didn't even have any morning sickness. I had nothing. I had the really nice skin. It was a very easy pregnancy. So that's why I was like, oh, I'm having a boy. Because same thing. That's what you're told is like you're having, if you're having a girl, your like hormones like fight with each other almost, Yeah. But I can tell you that's not true. So at least not for me. It wasn't. For some people it is. But
yeah, I mean, I had a girl and ended up having my pregnancy was very rough. So, I mean, again, all people are different. All pregnancies are different. All kids are different. And, yeah, I feel like that's been something that I have learned the most through parenting is that, like, what works for one kid might not work for another.
Right.
Yes, very correct. Okay, maybe you go for the next one.
Yeah, the next question is, next
Taboo
is birth experience. Like, is it like how they show it in the movies? Is it like
That
tough?
painful. Okay, and then also the whole
The
debate,
screaming.
the screaming, and how dramatic it sounds, and how torturing it sounds, and also like the whole debate about having a cesarean delivery or having a normal
Normal.
delivery. So, what happened to you guys?
Well, for me, I had a natural birth,
Mm-hmm.
but I did not at all have the birth that I was planning. So I feel like once it's time, once the birthing time is happening, you're just kind of along for the ride. And you can plan on having like a natural, unmedicated, like super hippie birth, and you arrive to the hospital, and that's not the case. That's not going to be how it goes. That's how it went for me anyway. And I know that, like I said before, I feel like this is a running theme that like everyone is different and that all experiences can go a multitude of different ways. So yeah, when I had a natural birth, I don't see anything wrong with having a cesarean birth, partially because I was very close to them being like, all right, you're going to C-section. I recognize that C-sections were created from safety, to make sure that like the mother and the baby all get through the birthing process safely, and to make sure that no one, is lost along the way. And so I think that whenever you're in the situation where maybe you need an emergency C-section, or even if you want to elect to have a C-section, like if that's what will work for you, then more power to you. Like I know that in some cultures, elective C-sections are the normal. Just because then I'm having a baby at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, and it's not like a waiting game kind of thing. So yeah, I see the benefit of it, but I don't know. It's just, I feel like whatever works for you.
Yeah, I did not have like a birth. I didn't have a birth plan because my doctor was like, told me basically like they're kind of pointless. So I was like, okay, cool. But even so, I still got thrown for a loop because I was a couple days away from my due date. I was doing everything I could to induce labor. And then I went to my, 40-week checkup, and my baby was upside down. And so my doctor was like, so here are your options. You can either, she's like, they can try to do an inversion, which is when they literally physically move the baby inside of your body and flip them over.
Oh my God.
So she's like, you can do that.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Or we can just schedule you to have a C-section. She's like, because if you go into labor with her in breech, you will have to have an emergency C-section. So I knew what an inversion was. I know they are excruciatingly painful, and I know they don't always work. The baby can flip back, which is crazy. And I was like, you know what? She's fully baked. Let's do it. So I ended up having a C-section. I will say having it scheduled was awesome because, like Becca was saying, I was like, all my family could be there. My house was clean. There were no dishes in the sink. That part of it was awesome. But no way that any woman brings a child into this world is easy. It is all exceptionally hard. I am still terrified to have a vaginal birth. I've always been afraid of it because that sounds so horrifying. Part of me was honestly relieved to learn I was having a C-section, and that's just the truth because I was terrified. But it's major surgery on your body. And then you are not only caring for an infant, you're caring for yourself. And you have to have more checkups than normal. So, and you have a scar, which I'm very proud of my scar. I wear it with pride, because that's how my daughter was able to come into this world.
Own it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just think any way that you have to bring your baby into this world, how you choose to bring your baby, none of it is easy. I think it is very exaggerated in Hollywood, though. I don't think it's like the blood curdling scream and and all this stuff. I guess I don't know because I haven't had a vaginal delivery, but from what I have read, it is not like that.
Yeah, for my experience, I was not the screaming bloody murder kind of birthing situation. I know that some women are.
So that's kind of relieving.
Yes. So for
They
me,
make it
it was
really
just
scary.
like a laser focus kind of moment. Like nothing else mattered at that point. And it also felt like the biggest poop that you've ever taken in your entire life. So,
And having a C-section, you're fully conscious while they're removing a human from your body, which is a very weird experience.
so weird.
So you don't
Really?
feel anything. You are numb. Like you can't feel it, but it feels like the best way to describe it is like it feels like they're carving a pumpkin. Is like
you
it's
feel the movement.
You don't feel
That's
any
so
pain. You don't feel any
terrifying.
pain. But what an experience to be fully awake, fully aware.
So you
I
can
had the
see
sheet up. I
everything.
didn't want to see anything. Some women watch. I was like,
Okay.
absolutely not. My husband watched everything. He's a crazy
Oh,
person.
wow.
And I was like, no, ma'am, I do not want to watch that. But yeah, so fully awake while they're taking a human out of your body is quite the experience.
Oh my god. That sounds so scary.
No, but fun fact, I was a premature baby. So for me, my mom was actually unconscious when this whole thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
She also had a C-section, but she was
Yeah.
unconscious.
She was unconscious, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
crazy.
that's
Yes,
crazy
she
too.
actually
You
didn't see
you
me
go
for
to
the-
you go to sleep and you're pregnant. You wake up and you got a kid. Like that'd be wild as
I
well.
know, all of them. Like I said, they're all different,
It's
but they're
all-
all
yeah.
so wild.
Wild and not easy in any way. It's
No.
all a new
Mhm.
level of difficult for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm. My mom couldn't see me for like a whole day after I was born. They didn't
Oh,
let her for
yeah.
some reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
anyways.
that's hard.
Yeah. NICU
Mhm.
situations I cannot speak to because I've never experienced it, but I
Mhm.
feel for those NICU moms.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's really hard. Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so going to the next taboo.
Okay, well,
The next one is
Oh no, we're still on
the
same
next
thing.
one.
Go ahead.
Okay, the next one is probably like one quite widely spoken about. It's about the mother's body after delivering a baby. So, it seems very scary, and especially when you see celebrities, right? Like how they go like, oh, I have the pressure to like bounce back to my zero figure body or like whatever the perfect body and just, be able to get back to work and do everything normally, look great, and it sometimes doesn't turn out like that, and it seems like quite a task to get back to your original selves, and your clothes don't fit you anymore, and it seems like a very difficult thing. So did you guys like experience that?
Yeah, and honestly, it is a difficult thing to try. I mean, your entire life is different.
Right.
Your body is different, but I think that that's one of the coolest things about the human body is that it is designed to change for whatever you need it for in every single season of life. So, the fact that, now that we're moms, we have, a little bit wider hips, like our skeleton in our pelvis literally changed. Our, ribs got wider to enable us to carry a baby to term. Like things physically change that are permanent, and that's okay because your body is designed to do that. Just like in nature, when, it's wintertime, most animals put on a little bit extra layer of fat because they know they're not going to be able to eat regularly. It's kind of like that as a mom. Like, we will sometimes go until like noon or later without feeding ourselves because we've been caring for everyone else's needs.
If I'm eating by noon, that's actually a good day.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, you need that. It's just nature. We've evolved to do this to be able to continue.
Yeah.
So,
I think the whole like bouncing back narrative just needs to be done.
Yeah.
I hate that society wants women to have babies but not look like you had a baby, not act like you have a baby.
That's so dumb.
And just return to life as if nothing has happened to you, and then you feel shame when you can't do that because it's impossible.
yeah.
Your body is never going to be the same. It has created and grown literal life,
Yes.
and that's amazing. So, it's just this pressure that we as women feel to have the perfect body or bounce right back. And it's exacerbated by the fact that men don't go through the same physical changes. So I'm over here having gained 50 pounds and my husband looks the exact freaking same. And my kid looks just like him, which sucks.
Right. Or they'll gain the weight and then they're praised for now just having a dad bod.
Exactly.
And it's like,
Wow.
oh, right.
It's true.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
They're praised for like, oh, sympathy weight. And it's like, meanwhile, it's like, yeah, but when is she going to drop those 50 pounds or whatever? It's just such a
That's
double
so
standard and
insensitive.
it's just horrible. So I just think all of that narrative, I want that narrative to just go. Like women's bodies should be praised. Stretch marks should be praised. C-section scars should be praised. It's an amazing transformation.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You should just embrace it. I mean, like,
Absolutely.
don't
Yes.
put pressure on her.
Yeah. As long as you are healthy and as long as you are, feel comfortable in your skin, that's what matters. Like your weight is the least interesting thing about you, as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful line. Your weight is the least interesting part
Quote
of you.
Yes.
found.
Great.
Okay, so finally for segment 3, we're gonna put you
I love
guys
it.
on the
It's
hot
all
seat
right.
again.
One last time, guys.
Yeah, one last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this time we're gonna ask you guys questions that we were too afraid to ask our parents.
Or
Other children.
yeah, I mean, I'm okay to ask my mom, but I think it's probably like questions that children are desperate to ask their parents, and they're dying to ask their parents, but kind of
For sure.
hesitate to.
Lay it on us.
So we wanna hear the answers from you guys. Okay, so I'll go for the first question then.
Yeah.
The first question is something. Okay, anyways. So, do you guys ever get used to touching poop and vomit
Yes,
pretty
I've
much on the
become very
daily?
comfortable with poop. Vomit. I just like. I mean,
Oh my
it's
God,
not like
really?
my favorite thing. But it's just like. I mean, for the last 2.5 years, I have dealt with another human's poop multiple times a day. So you really just don't have a choice but to adapt to that. Vomit is definitely harder for me. She's only like thrown up twice in her life. One of them literally happened last week, so it is kind of fresh. I've always like not dealt with vomit well. My brother used to like get sick all the time, and I would literally like go sit on my porch. I'd be like, goodbye. He was in the hospital after getting his tonsils out, and he was all drugged up,
same.
and he like came out of it, and he's like, I'm gonna throw up. I ran out of the hospital. Like I left. I was like, goodbye. Like, sorry about your surgery. I'm out.
I'm gonna find my own way home.
I'm like-
Goodbye, guys.
Call me when you're done. But I will say, so I like think about it and be like, oh my gosh, like I like am fearful of the vomit happening, but it will strike when you least expect it. I can say that. And you really do just handle it because you don't have a choice. You can't leave your kid on the side of the road.
Yeah.
You can't just leave them in their crib covered in their own puke. I mean, you can, but it's frowned upon in society. So I don't.
True.
But it sucks. It's like it doesn't get easier to deal with. You
No.
just do it.
No, I've never been one to like if I even hear someone like gag a little bit, I'm like up and out.
Yeah.
I'm gone. I want nothing to do with
I'm
it.
on like high alert. I'm like, no.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and then I don't trust you for like the rest of the night. I'm like, no way.
Same.
But
After it just happened, because it happened in the car. My daughter and I, we were in Colorado. Every time she'd even like cough, because a lot of times you're like, and then it comes because you're like choking, kind of. I'd be like I would never. I'd like whip my head so fast, like, what? Are you gonna throw up? Are you gonna throw up?
there was literally a week where Nova had a stomach bug that she was like every night she was throwing up, and like for weeks after we would like hear a cough upstairs, and I'd
Alert
be like
mode.
running up the stairs like, oh no, get the bucket, not again. Yeah, I was just like so much like post-traumatic stress from throw up. I was just like, it's happening.
Yeah. So I'd say it doesn't. You don't necessarily get comfortable with it. You just deal
Yeah,
with it.
it's like
'cause
the
you
part
gotta
of your
deal with
brain
it.
that's like, ew, no, just turns off, and you're just like, we have to handle this now, and you
yeah.
just go into mission mode.
I was holding her on the side of a road. She was in her diaper. I was just covered in her puke, and I'd be like, my stomach wasn't even upset. Like I didn't. like normally I'd be feeling sick for like hours after an event like that. But because it was my own child, I just was like, all right, well, I got to take a shower. I mean, I definitely cried. Like I still cried. It was horrible, but you just
dig in and
Yeah.
get it done.
Yep.
Head
Dig
down.
in, no. I don't know. I just seems to me.
That
I'm
was a
sure
bad
we're like,
word
I'm
choice.
sure that this is like really making you guys want to have kids in the future.
No,
I'm
this
sure
is
you're
the
just like
best.
so
This
excited
is
about
the
it.
best birth
Yeah,
control.
totally. So
Yeah,
excited.
amazing birth control.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, maybe do you want to go for the second question?
Yeah, the next question is, how do you guys tolerate the lack of sleep?
Because it seems so, oh my god, like you must be going for like what, 4 hours sleep like every day. That seems very wow.
Yeah, I mean, sleep. I've always.
Can you remind me what sleep is again?
Yeah, there you go. What is sleep? I mean, I've dealt with insomnia majority of my life. Like ever since I was a teenager, I've dealt with insomnia through different bouts. So dealing with sleep is just kind of something that I accept. Or lack of sleep is something I accept. It never makes it easier though. I feel like there's just moments where you just become numb to the fact that you've only had 3 or 4 hours of consecutive sleep in a night. And yeah, it definitely takes a toll on like your memory.
Yeah.
So I feel like
And your patience.
So I feel like a lot of times we're running on like very short fuses and not being able to like remember simple tasks that we're in the middle of. So that just adds, to the joys of motherhood.
Yeah.
Um,
I've like before I had a kid, I was always like a really good sleeper. I would sleep for just 15 straight hours. Like I could always sleep. I was a great. My mom was really.
Coma. That's the coma.
I just took an occasional coma. I was like, not a big deal. I was a really good sleeper as a baby. Like my mom would tell me, she's like, you'd sleep like 12 to 14 straight hours.
Whoa.
So I was really hopeful that my kid would be like that. She was not. She's a decent sleeper. Overall, she's been a pretty good sleeper. It could be a lot worse. And it's not an easy thing to deal with. The hardest part for me is just like waking up and like
just getting out of
not
bed.
having a choice but to get out of bed. Your body is telling you need to stay in bed. Your mind is telling you need to stay in bed, but you got this 2-year-old who's like, hi mommy, and you can't
literally
stay
poking you in
literally
the face.
she was like slapping me one time like this. She's like, wake up.
Why does it seem so annoying? But for some reason, this
And then you're like, oh, I love you so much. But yeah, so it's another one of those things where you literally do just get through it. Like because again, you don't have a choice. But I think having a good support system with your spouse, your partner, your significant other, it really will make it easier. Like my husband and I take turns getting up in the morning, and that is something that has really benefited both of us, because it's really nice to be like, okay, tomorrow, like this morning was rough, but tomorrow I get an extra hour. On the weekends, a lot of times, especially, because I have been dealing with insomnia for the past year and it's really hard for me. My husband will be like, just sleep however long you want. Like it's Saturday, just, my anxiety usually kicks in and doesn't let me sleep in very long, but, I try.
Mother things.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But for some reason, this kind of reminds me of exam time. I don't know why. The lack
Yeah.
of sleep, like just get out of bed. No, I don't want to get out of bed. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's tough.
Mhm.
For sure.
But by the way, you guys should be so proud of yourself. You're like raising a child, not getting to sleep, and still putting on this beautiful face. So
Yeah.
love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, the
It's
next
a
question.
thankless job.
It is a
so
thankless
It
job.
feels
yeah.
nice.
Okay, the next question is completely hypothetical. Okay, it's a crazy question, but it's something that we found online, and I think it's quite interesting. Okay, if your kid was on the path to becoming a psychopath or a killer, would you recognize it and act on it, or would you be clouded by your love for the kid?
Oh, that's a good
That
question.
is a really good question.
My like worst fear is like
I know.
Is she gonna grow up to be a serial killer?
I constantly am like, I have no idea if what I am doing is good for you, or if I am messing you up for all of eternity. So there is, that little bit of anxiety that I for sure deal with.
Yeah, same.
It's like, am I raising a good human? I won't know for 20 years. So
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So, but I do hope that, like, I don't know, like, I feel very lucky that I have a pretty good kid. Like, she is very empathetic towards other people. She wants to make sure that others feel included. So because I have a child like that, that doesn't really ever cross my mind. Like,
Okay,
I
that's
feel
good.
like, but if, if I did have a kid who was like showing some questionable actions, like if they were, I don't know, like hurting animals or
That's the
something
one. I
like
think
that,
about that.
that I've heard is like, that's a good telltale sign that your kid is dealing with some stuff.
Stuff. Very intense
Some
stuff.
Some stuff. I think about this probably maybe more than I should, because I'm like, it's a legitimate fear. I like think about that as like, if she ever harms, like, she's so good with animals. Again, my daughter's same, very empathetic, very sweet. But I'm like, what would I do? That's a really good question. I think it would be such a hard thing to like separate in your mind. I think I would just buy her a really nice straight jacket and put her in a little padded room and lock her in there for the rest of her life so she can't kill anyone and just be near me always. Is that the right answer?
I think you've just exasperated a situation. If that's how you're gonna do it. No, but it's
for her own good.
I mean,
you want to, the hard thing is, like, you want to see the best in your kid, and you want to believe that they're good humans, and you want to believe that you've done a good job raising them. So I could see the idea of, like, being clouded by your own love for your kid. I could definitely see that as, like, getting in the way of, like, I should probably intervene. But I also want to believe that, like, I'm aware enough as an adult and as a human that I would be like, time to take some extra steps to make sure that that's not gonna, like, ruin their life forever, or that that's not going to be the path that they continue down. Let's get off of that path. Let's figure out,
redirect that path.
Yeah, maybe go ride some horses and, like, some equestrian therapy or something like that. I don't know.
Art therapy. Let's take
exactly
and put it on the paper or something. But
yeah.
I think that would be really hard. Really hard.
Yeah, I mean, no one wants to raise a serial killer.
Exactly, yeah.
No.
It's not my first choice, for sure. Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah. The next question is, why do some parents get really upset and angry when a non-parent calls their pet their baby?
Do you guys get offended if someone, like, calls their pet their baby? Because I want a dog really bad, and if I get a dog, I can bet I'd call it like, oh my god, this is my baby,
See, it doesn't bother me, because I have people who do that.
Yeah.
Who, like, compare their dog to my kid. And I'm just like, to you, your dog is your kid. Like, not compare, but just, like, I'll share something about Ruby and they'll be like, oh, my dog. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, not the same. But it doesn't, like, make me mad.
No, at that, like, when you're at that point in your life, if your dog is your baby, then I 100% respect that. Like, that is the creature that you are in charge of, you're taking care of, you're providing for. There are a lot of similarities of, like, responsibility. You're responsible for another living creature.
Yeah.
If that is if that's what your definition of a baby is, then I think that falls into it. If, I might kind of scoff a little bit if I'm, like, explaining a parenting struggle and you're like, yeah, my dog is really hard to walk on the leash. I might kind of roll my eyes at that, but but if that's what you're able to compare to, I also, like, it's not wrong to, it's not a bad thing if you don't have the same life experience to compare to. If your, parallel is your dog or your cat or your turtle, then that's what you're able to correlate in your mind. And I think that that's fine.
Yeah, and I've attempted to watch a puppy and a toddler at the same time, and it's very difficult. And I will say the puppy required more of my attention than my toddler did. So there are a lot of similarities. So like I get why people do it, but I would obviously there's also, it's like I get why people do it, but it's almost also like there is no comparison. So that's kind of how I feel. But like when people do it, I don't really care enough to be like, meh. I'm just like, okay, whatever, sure. If you ever have kids, you'll be in for a rude awakening, but, cross that bridge when you come to it. It's all good,
Yep. And if kids aren't for you, then kids aren't for you. And your puppies can always be your babies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For sure.
That's good. But I still want a dog. Okay, and now for the finale question. The big question.
Yes.
Biggest
Bring it
question.
on.
Yeah, Nivi, go for it.
Do you ever regret parenthood?
I can never say that I regret having kids. There are aspects of things that I've done with parenting or parenting choices that I have made that, hindsight is always 20/20, that like I regret making those choices or I wish I would have dealt with a situation differently, but never have I regretted having kids.
I agree. I would say never a regret, but just and we touched on it a little bit earlier where sometimes you just miss what life was like before you had your kid because it was so free. I did not worry as much as I did. I did not have as much anxiety. I slept better. Life was a little less complicated. Life was a little easier.
Yeah, fewer responsibilities.
Yeah.
If you messed up, you were the only one that like dealt with it.
Every decision that I make did not directly affect another human in the way they're being raised.
And you can go to the washroom alone.
Right.
Yes, and you can pee alone and, not have your entire family barging in.
Peeing alone is a privilege, so just don't ever take it for granted, guys.
It's a privilege. Enjoy
while it
being able
lasts.
to use the bathroom.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Privately.
So certainly, and as much fun as we poke, as much as, we complain, and as hard as it is 100% worth it in the end. Having, being a mother is a privilege, one that I take very seriously. And if I had the option to go back to life as it was and not have her, I would never ever choose that option. I would do it all over again for her because it really is worth it. It's crazy. They push you to your limit. I've never felt more like I'm losing my mind.
But they've also, I feel like, made us the best versions of ourselves that we have ever been.
Yeah. They lose your mind. You lose your mind, but you find your soul in motherhood, in parenthood.
That's a great.
You do.
Aww.
You lose your mind, but you find your soul. And so it's true. It really is true. I mean, so much. I mean, we wouldn't have this podcast if it wasn't for our kids. Like it's opening us up to a whole new world of things people we wouldn't be. We wouldn't meet you guys. Like it's so many cool things can come from being a parent. So it's an amazing experience, a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yes.
Well, I think with that then we can conclude today's episode. I must say it was so much fun. Thank you guys so much for coming. It was actually so fun to talk to
Thank
you
you
guys.
so much for having us.
Thank you guys so much.
It was super fun to chat with you guys.
Yeah, shed some light on the inner workings of motherhood and
Yes.
all of the craziness that happens in our brain.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, great to know your insight on it too. Definitely make sure to check out their podcast. I love listening to you guys' podcast. It's so much fun. It's
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's the Kids Are Weird podcast. Definitely make sure to follow them. And a big thank you to our listeners as well. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode.
Yes. Anyways, if you like this episode, please make sure to follow us here on Spotify and check out our YouTube channel and Instagram. And all the other places.
Yeah, make sure to share it with your mom and your parents, because that's going to like lead to some interesting discussions over there.
Yeah.
But anyways, until next time, thank you
Thank you.
so much and bye.
Bye.